there, welcome to this session of the 2016 WLA Conference, Journey to the Unknown at the 2016 National Book Festival. I'm Karen Kitchens, the State Publications Librarian here at the Wyoming State Library, and I'm talking to Cary Dunlap, Marketing Manager here at the State Library, who actually attended several of the National Book Festivals. Cary, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the Book Festival?
Yeah, so the National Book Festival is an annual literary conference hosted by the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. The event takes place at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center in downtown D.C., and it usually occurs in late summer. It's a two-day affair with a catered reception the night before, and that's hosted by the Center for the Book, and then the festival itself takes place on the following Saturday. The conference has become a distinguished and leading literary event in the United States. Prominent writers and book fans are able to come together for a day's worth of interactive happenings centered on reading and literacy. Over the years, informative and entertaining exhibitions have been conducted on site on topics like book illustration and the preservation of family photos and documents. The National Book Festival was created by Laura Bush and Librarian of Congress at the time, James H. Billington. The inaugural fair took place in 2001, and Mrs. Bush served as honorary chair through 2008. Since 2009, President and Mrs. Obama have acted as co-chairs. The National Book Festival is funded by private donors and corporate sponsors who share a commitment to reading and literacy. Since 2010, NBF Board Co-Chairman David N. Rubenstein has been the festival's lead benefactor and has pledged funding for the festival through at least 2018.
I know, I attended in 2009 and it was quite an experience. Do you know, Cary, how long Wyoming has participated?
Yes, indeed. The Wyoming State Library has represented at the National Book Festival every year since 2007. For many years, the event was held outdoors on the grounds of the National Mall and was, of course, subject to weather events like rain and wind and humidity. Since 2014, we've been fortunate to be indoors at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center at Pavilion C, which is also known as the Pavilion of the States, during the show.
Indoors is great. What was the objective of participating? Did you meet these objectives?
The National Book Festival is an opportunity to represent Wyoming libraries at the highest possible level. We get to show off programs, resources, and ideas that Wyoming librarians share every day with their patrons. In return, we get ideas from other states, inspiration and motivation to try new things. I'm always inspired by the great marketing graphics and campaign ideas that I see present at the event.
Cary, do you know if all the states participate?
Yes, they do. All 50 states are present, as are the territorial libraries from Guam and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, etc. It's really a lot of fun to meet and mingle with so many folks from so many different places in Wyoming.
I know when I went, I did get a chance to look around at some of the other states. Did you get to visit any other states' booths or any other exhibits?
Yes, I did, of course. I visited with every library booth present, and I spoke with representatives from all of them. I especially enjoy talking with Hawaii every year. They always bring along singers and dancers along with their library staff, and they're just a lot of fun. They really know how to have fun there in Hawaii.
And I know when I went, it was so fun, and it was a very overwhelming experience. Cary, can you describe what your overall experience was, and what does the National Book Fest look like?
Indeed, overwhelming is a good way to put it. There's so many activities that take place on that Saturday. There are author readings and panel discussions and Q&A sessions and book signings and just a ton of other fun activities. But the central part of the event is the Pavilion of the States. Here, representatives of all 50 state libraries, as well as U.S. territorial libraries, stock their booths with state-specific promotional wares. They bring items like bookmarks and travel guides and literature. All these things are about prominent native authors And it's just really a treat for showgoers to make their way through all of the library booths and meet with people and meet prospective authors and meet established authors and learn something about each state or territory. In 2016, we handed out a ton of Wyoming and library branded giveaways, including bookmarks, maps, and stickers from the Office of Tourism, hundreds of other items. Like a lot of other booths, we ran out of our giveaways before the end of the day. We came to this year's show so much better prepared than the previous year, but we still ended up short, so next year we'll just have to do better.
The year I went, we had so many children and teachers. Who were your primary customers?
We heard estimates on the day of the show that over 100,000 people were expected to pass through the gates and attend the Pavilion of the States. I believe that's exactly what happened. Overall, the showgoers are a collection of children and parents as well as entire families. And I'm pleased to report that the parents and individual adults were every bit as excited and involved in the goings-on as the kids were. It wasn't just the kids that were excited to be a part of the Pavilion of the States.
Did you encounter any folks from Wyoming? Anyone who had visited Wyoming?
It's interesting. We always encounter a lot of Wyoming natives at this event. Folks who either grew up in Wyoming or live here now. This year, we were fortunate we got to talk with several UW grads. It seems odd, but at this national literacy event held in Washington, D.C. every year, there's just always a lot of Wyoming folks that we get to connect with.
Why don't you tell us about some of the conversations you had with these people about Wyoming?
Well, I got to visit with two people from last year's show. I immediately recognized their faces. These were two folks that I talked with in detail in 2015, and it was fun. It seemed like we simply resumed our conversations from the previous year's show. One was a college football player who played at North Dakota, and he had all kinds of stories and memories about his trips to play UW in Laramie. He recounted his struggles to acclimatize to the altitude. That was what he remembered most. The other was a wonderful Wyoming woman who works to preserve the legacy and impact of the Hart Mountain Relocation Center, which is located between Cody and Powell. Her father was interned there during World War II, and she has dedicated much of her life to keeping alive the history associated with that camp. I expect to see both of those folks again next year.
I know you were busy, but did you happen to attend any author book signings? If so, which ones?
Well, I really wanted to, but I just couldn't make it happen this year. Jamie and I spent the entire day in our Wyoming booth talking with attendees and signing maps for the kids. The Junior League of D.C. even makes volunteers available at each library booth to assist with the busyness of the day, and we had two such volunteers this year. I have to tell you, it was just impossible to get away from the booth, except for the occasional biology break. I would have enjoyed meeting Salman Rushdie and Stephen King this year, but alas, it just wasn't meant to be. The day was over before I knew it. I'm hopeful that next year I can connect with some authors.
What was your favorite part about this experience?
That's easy. Amid all the hustle and bustle and busyness and all the conversation, my favorite part of the day's activities is the kids that collect stamps on their maps. At the beginning of the pavilion procession, maps are given to kids who then disperse and visit all the library booths to collect a stamp or a sticker on their map for the state in question. And it's a race for most kids. They have a lot of fun with it. They're rewarded at the end of the process with a fun prize. This year, flashlights were given away. It's really a lot of fun because you get to engage each child, and often you get to visit with their parents as well. And before stamping the kids' maps, we like to ask them to point out Wyoming on the map, or to reveal a fact that they might know about the cowboy state. Most kids know their U.S. geography pretty well and can find Wyoming instantly. And this year, several kids were able to recite the fact that Wyoming is the least populous state in the Union.
Well, the big question is, how does our library's attendance help promote Wyoming libraries?
Well, as I said before, the WSL gets to meet with thousands of people from all over the world at this event. And from a positive or actionable perspective, we get to show off our resources, our programs, and our ideas. We get to demonstrate that Wyoming residents are educated, library-using, literature-loving book readers. We get a chance to see how we measure up against the other state library institutions, and best of all, we get to learn new things from our peers. We always come away from this event feeling good about the status and the condition of Wyoming libraries. Some folks may have a hard time understanding what it is exactly that we get out of attending this event, and some may think that returns aren't necessarily tangible or measurable. But I disagree, and I feel like they really are. I can tell you this, if we didn't attend, we would be conspicuous by our absence. We would be the only state library that didn't participate. That's not a legacy that I want to leave behind. We want to represent, that's the main thing. And since much of the cost for us to attend the National Book Festival is accounted for by COSLA, we have every reason to go ahead and be there.
Well, thank you, Cary. This has been fascinating, and hopefully many Wyoming librarians will get an opportunity to attend the Book Fest. Thank you.
Well, sure. Happy to help, and I look forward to the 2017 show.